Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the last episode this year in 2024, where we are happy that we would like to talk and inform you about CX and AI from a German perspective. We are still in positive motivation to see what we can talk about in that upcoming hour. And if I'm informed right, Thomas has a hard cut. And that will give us the opportunity that what is not typical for us, we will proper end to the hour. And Marshall has the opportunity.
You without me.
Yeah, we can try. It will be hard, but we can try. As AI is a topic which is driving its footsteps and waves and enthusiasm through markets, not only the worldwide market, the American or English-speaking market, but very much also it is going all over the world, Europe as Germany as well. And we are extremely happy to have our expert, Andreas Wagner. Andreas is a political scientist and economist, and as a professor at Hof University of Applied Science, he deals with the topic of digitalization in all its facets, especially digital marketing. His main area of expertise includes artificial intelligence, data economics, blockchain, the Internet of Things, digital media, and all areas of digital management. He is a book author and he runs the blog Nerdwords, which is a German written one, which deals with digital change in business and society. And he's also regularly addresses these topics as a speaker and keynote speaker. That was one of the occasions when I had the pleasure to meet him and that we were together on stage. And there is Jan. So I will continue the introduction for second expert, Jan Schönemakers. Welcome from Hase and Igel, which is Hare and Hedgehog. Well, sorry, I'm always trying
not
to.
The first thing that would come to mind when you look at my hairdo.
Fair enough.
Well, not that type of hair, but.
Jan is founder and managing partner of Hase and Igel, and since 2018, the most innovative tech company in the DACH-Region, as he won several Stevie Awards with his team, and he provides award-winning cloud software solutions that empower decision makers in marketing and sales to act faster and in more precise way by using AI to automatically integrate it, first, second, and third-party data, reveal trends and success drivers, and generate recommendations for action. Before founding Hase and Igel, Jan has started 3 other companies, so he is an entrepreneur from the bottom of his heart in e-commerce, marketing, and consultancy, and spent over 10 years shaping marketing and corporate communications at companies such as EW AG, Next Practice, and Edelman in Silicon Valley. Welcome, Jan. Welcome, Andreas. Great to have you here.
Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for having me, Lars.
Did I miss anything in your introductions? Would you like to add something from your end, gentlemen?
You did a perfect job. Nothing to add.
I love to hear that one.
Yeah.
Honest, the German perspective on customer experience is the one starting point where I would like to ask for your perception and what is your perspective? What do you see? Where do you see difference in broader Europe, and where do you see those differences from the DACH or German perspective towards the United States? Andreas, as you are an author and have written on marketing and AI, I would like to start with you, if this is okay, Jan.
Well, if you look at AI, I mean, it's when we look at to America, we always see the large language models, of course, the thinking big, and in Germany, of course, it seems more like we see AI maybe as a feature of existing products or to contribute to existing business models. We usually focus more on processes, not so much again on the big picture, and maybe that's a difference how we are getting near this. And of course, I mean, maybe the big elephant in the room is the way how we look at regulation and the markets themselves, but that's probably another thing. But I think I would say that's maybe the big picture, the big language models and the processes. Maybe these are the most important differences.
Jan, your take.
I would have argued in a similar direction, but with a little bit different twist. I would say that the US platforms, and also to the extent that we have them in the West, the Chinese platforms, they go for a very broad and very generic business model. They always try to address the broadest possible use case and to be something for everyone. And they don't strive to be perfectly useful for you as an individual business or as an individual user, but trying to accommodate the broadest variety of users and use cases to have that great standardization and scale really well. And that's part of the success, of course, because most of everyone can find something useful in those platforms. But then when you go into use cases that generate more value or that have to generate more value, particularly in a B2B environment, it's frequently not good enough. So I would argue that particularly German companies, they have this tinkering ethics, this, Mittelstand ethics, where you come more from an artisanal perspective and try to have a very, very good solution for a specific use case. So they can also think fairly big. I mean, if you look at companies like, for example, DeepL or Celonis, they've had a terrific journey and they're acknowledged worldwide. But they have a very specific use case and they strive to be the best at this use case and not good enough for all kinds of use cases. And I think that's a very typical German perspective on things, So I would try to qualify that statement, not necessarily say we don't cater to the big picture here, but we certainly don't have that broad scope. We have a much narrower scope and focus more on the value chain and maximizing ROI along a specific value chain. And I think that's a very, very different approach. And it's, of course, part of the picture, only part. We got plenty more issues in Germany when it comes to AI and digitization, but it's part of the picture why we completely missed the boat on the whole platform thing, in terms of general, big, huge hyperscaler platforms. But we have a pretty terrific, often underrated ecosystem of specific solutions, both B2B and B2C, but probably more with the B2B twist because you got more capital flying around there to address specific use cases.
Funny
So
enough,
you see the main difference, best of breed versus platform.
Yeah. I mean, best of breed is always a more, narrow focus strategy by design.
Mm. So
it's also
sorry, Andreas.
Now it's also if you look at the drivers for AI. I mean, that actually adds to what Jan just said. I mean, it's those Mittelstand, these medium companies, bigger ones as well, but very often which have been around for a long time, which has been the backbone of German economy, from the automotive sector, from engineering, that look at specific areas where they actually can benefit from applying AI, and And maybe that's different because, when you look how large language models developed, it was more like, okay, there is AI and now we want to make it bigger and bigger. We want scaling. When you look at the drivers in Germany, it's more like, no, we want to solve a specific problem. I think that pretty much adds up what Jan just said, yeah.
When I think I'm leaping ahead a little bit, I think we'll get to that later, but I think culturally and from the whole regulation angle, Germans tend to emphasize accountability and explainability much more. And as you can't really make an LLM explainable and fully accountable, at least no one has succeeded thus far in doing that. There hasn't really been this, arms race for the greatest LLM, but more this idea like, how can we hold AI accountable? How can we make it explainable? How can we integrate that into our business processes, which is exactly what you said, Andreas. Like, we tend to think in processes. So I think culturally that's one stark difference. And there's another one. I mean, you rightly said in Germany, typically drivers are SMEs and startups too, but more with an SME ethic. When we won all those international awards, I've frequently been asked, okay, like, can you explain where's the German Elon Musk or where's the German Steve Jobs? And I always said, like, I don't think we're going to have them. It's not the German way. I rather expect, the next German or the next Werner from Siemens or Robert Bosch or something, that's more our line of thinking. Even as startups, I mean, if you look at us as a startup, the way we develop products, it's fast, it's bold, but it's from a Mittelstand ethics. It's not from this platform strategy that you see in the US. And part of it is culturally, part of it is, I think, just born out of necessity, because we need to generate value quite fast and quite specifically in order to raise capital at all. We need to be profitable in Germany. US startups, they don't have to be profitable. They have the luxury of burning money, burning billions, actually, if you look at companies in the AI and data space, such as Palantir, burning billions and billions over years, sometimes more than a decade. And they still get funding because Americans, they embrace this boldness and risk and this, disruptive mindset of startups, and not just in theory, but they actually fund it. And most of all, which is much more important, they use it, they buy it, they purchase their solutions. Whereas in Europe, and particularly in Germany, everybody applauds if you're brave and disruptive and stuff. But people are very, very cautious in the VC space to fund that. And companies are very cautious to invest, to purchase a software solution or platform or something that hasn't been around for like 10 years or something.
Would you?
So you need to make sure that you have a pretty fast ROI for your user and for yourself. Otherwise, you just don't survive here.
That was exactly the point I was liking to jump on, such as you would say, Jan, and as well, Andreas, that we are in Germany with the entrepreneurs in the area very much focused on delivering value and talking about an achievable ROI in a certain amount of time. Where do you see
absolutely. that? Absolutely. I mean, it's. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, when you. I've been doing business development before my career as an academic a lot, and you always wanted to see results, and very quickly. It was not like, oh, we can wait 20 years like Amazon did to actually, produce some profit. No, we want to see it within a certain time frame, at least 5 years, and then it has to be there. And I mean, that's a different. In America, I've always the feeling it's money means everything and nothing at the same time. So you spend it and you lose it, but you can regain it. When in Germany we feel like, okay, when we lose it, maybe that will be the death of the company. It will absolutely be fatal, and so there's no point of return. Maybe that's a cultural thing. I mean, we have been. I mean, this is maybe our heritage, yeah. Because of wars in Europe, and you lose everything, and it's hard to get back. And I think it's hard to change this. Maybe this is part of the European DNA, more or less. Yeah.
Well, particularly part of the German DNA, I think, and culturally, when it comes to those things, the whole importance of saving face and of honor and not getting caught red-handed, etc. I think we're culturally much closer to Japan than we are to the US when it comes to those aspects of like entrepreneurship and leadership. Also like a much more static society when it comes to hierarchy and tradition. And it's interesting because you see the same thing, Japan, an industry built on heavy engineering, automotive, overaging society, and absolutely lost the ball when it came to AI. It's been like a dominating force before, and then they somehow vanished into, oh yeah, they're there too, but we don't really think about them all that much when it comes to AI and to digital solutions outside their own ecosystem. And that changed. I mean, think of Japan or Germany. 10, 15, 20 years ago, everyone was in awe. Also in the US, it was like, oh my God, think of all those, those movies in the 80s and 90s. We have to somehow fend off the Japanese imports, and the Japanese are buying all our companies, and we have no chance in hell against them. Where are the Japanese now? Where are the Germans now?
The aspect aside. Yeah, right answer, Thomas. And I wanted to have also a take from Marshall as our original American in the round. What his take is on burning money faster than one can take breezes, and on the perspective of long-term success. And I wanted to add on your behalf, Jan, that robotics and being innovative with robots and needed AI to make them work in a certain scheme. They have a lot of know-how on AI, but not on the big waves of interest in the LLMs or something like that. I believe behind the back door, what we not can observe right now are some little secrets. And one of our favorite guest, Dr. Michael Wu, is in very close contact to Japan and is a researcher and a professor and doctor. And he said lately that there are some interesting developments. Now, Marshall, to you, the American take, burning money faster than one can breathe.
Yeah, I've never really agreed with that approach. I'm probably closer to the German ideal personally in terms of moving from a stable base, making sure that your base business is protected before you start experimenting. Americans are risk takers and gamblers. It shows throughout our history. And I hate to stereotype, but it really is kind of true how we will tend to risk everything on a new venture, but at the same time expect to get all that money back. We don't seem to understand that gambling means there's an excellent chance of losing.
What I observed from the distance is a bit, especially as I was starting with the momentum and the people are so enthusiastic, it comes to my history lessons that there was a gold rush in the 1860s. I have a bit the impression we have a gold rush .0 in the US right now. What is your observation, Thomas, from being a German, being over there, having also other experiences from international experience? What's your feeling?
There's always a gold rush. There was one on metaverse. Before that, we had blockchains. So there's always a gold rush. The main difference is Marshall just said. So over here, you bet your house. People bet their house because they are fully confident that even if they lose it, they rebuild it.
Okay.
Now I'm a German, I'm allowed to say that. The German doesn't bet his house. He actually asks someone to bet. Well, this comes on top here as well. So people are incredibly good at making someone else bet their house for their success, for my success. Yes, people are incredibly good at that. So this for sure is not. This is for sure not in the German DNA. Well, this is venture capital, right? So this for sure is not in the German DNA. And what's not in the German DNA is risk taking. Period. Sorry,
but we don't, Germans.
There are a few exceptions, but in general, what is there? So there is continuous improvement, working from the stable base, or building cheating devices in order to prolong the zombie life of a dead technology. But when it comes to genuine innovation, there's little. Sorry.
But I mean, Germans can't really bet their house because they don't own it, you know. I mean, they rent it, right?
Good point.
Because it belongs to the bank.
Good point. Yeah, well, even better.
They only work there.
Yeah.
Germany's not an ownership society. It's never been one, and it probably will never be one culturally. And it's never really been much of an entrepreneurial society. So it's more about stewardship, you know. If it's not yours, but you sort of guard it for someone else, then you always have a chip on your shoulder. You are not as bold, you're not as proactive. And I mean, from a economical standpoint, we ought to change that, because due to demographic change, we really have to transform. We need more private investment and everything, but try to kind of iron that into our culture, which is completely resistant to the idea of actually owning your life and then going all in.
Look, no, it's not only owning your life. Look at what happened in Brandenburg. There's this famous car factory that got built in 18 months. From, well, inception to starting to being productive. How did that work? In a country that is full of regulations. Whether they are good or bad, I don't judge the regulations at this time. So they made it because they work with preliminary consents. Now look at a company like BMW, or even worse, my favorite enemy, VW. They start moving after they have everything granted. Everything. So they don't take risk as a company. And this is, well, the problem that they are suffering from right now. And
you see that with AI adaptation, because it's like, if we haven't used it before, it might be risky. We don't know what to accept, so we are reluctant.
Yeah, and that's the end. Now we are back at regulations, what you already hinted at. What is the core thought of the EU AI Act? Basically the same as the core thought of GDPR. Mitigate risk. It's always coming from a risk point of view. So it's always about making as tight as possible. And yes, if you don't regulate enough, then there will be the many who are turning into bad actors. But if you are turning too tight, then, well, you are stifling yourself as well. So it's a balancing game. Over here, the balance is on the wrong side, on the other wrong side. Let's put it like that. So it's how can we, as a small group or as a part of a larger groups, help improve that?
I'm actually not sure whether the AI Act really is all about regulation and mitigate risk, or whether it's a relatively smart attempt of carving out an own market niche for Europeans in an already lost battle. I'm really sincerely not sure, because I see tremendous potential for European AI companies in the AI Act if we leverage it the right way. But I'm not sure whether that was the intention of the politicians or whether they kind of created this opportunity by happenstance. I can't, X-ray their heads, but I actually think you can use that, whether that's the intention or not, to really
You need to use it.
capitalize on this idea of accountability and risk mitigation and explainability, to build an ecosystem around that favors European companies, but that's needed internationally, because also in the US, in Korea, in China, in Japan, if you have high-risk applications or high-stakes applications, say you use AI modeling to reallocate $500 million of budget, you'll definitely have to answer to your board for that, and potentially to external auditors, etc., maybe to a court. And then you have solutions like Palantir, IBM, OpenAI, etc., that will do a good job, but they can't give you explanations, they can't give you documentation, so you got to tell your board, the court, whatever, well, the computer told me. Europeans have created with the AI Act a framework that incentivizes European AI companies to give you a solution that will make you stand proud before your board, because you can actually answer their questions. And I think there's a good demand for that worldwide, and it's sort of forcing European companies to come up with solutions for that. The question is whether that was intended.
Yeah. And I think, personally, I think there's too much complaining about the AI Act, in fact, because the basic idea, I totally support that. I mean, there are some applications of AI that are dangerous, not in sense of it will kill me or something like that. There's an echo. Is that me?
I listen to this one.
My audio dropped.
Someone's listening in. Hi, ET.
What is this?
The AIs have caught on to us.
Oh, yeah. I told you, AI is dangerous. Thank God we have the AI Act. Yeah. No, seriously. No, seriously. I mean, it's about, there are certain applications I don't want to have. I mean, so maybe it's, and at the moment, it's just a framework. I mean, it's about, there's just a definition of certain risks and that come with AI, and some we might not have, or we don't want to have these. There are some other ones that, of application of AI that are not endangered by the AI Act at all. But of course, I mean, for example, I don't want to the authorities to do the check on my face and compare me with any people in prison or whatever, and tell I'm a criminal, or do predictive policing on these kinds of things. And I think that this is about citizen rights. And Jan is right. I mean, it wasn't intended that we create an environment where European companies have a niche where they can develop alternative products. But of course, are we still? Do we have a problem here?
I think Thomas is still having a problem.
Okay. So I keep on talking.
Yeah, you're good.
We're live.
Okay. So. I think there is a niche now it's a market of 450 million people, and it's with this strong purchasing power. I mean, of course, India alone is 3 times bigger than Europe, but of course, I mean, it's an important market, and we can create maybe a different kind of AI and create a market for this. Yeah, and okay, this is also a consequence of the AI Act.
And I actually think it's the only thing Europeans could do, because they missed the boat so bad. They just had we as Europeans don't have a chance to catch up with the US or China. It just won't fly. We don't have enough capital. We don't have enough skilled manpower for that. It just doesn't work. We would have had a chance if it would be like a year or 2 or 3 behind, but we're so far behind. There will not be a European OpenAI or a European whatever, Microsoft. It just won't happen. So we have to sort of, tinker and bend the rules a little bit or reinvent the rules to get a chance again, to get a jab at, actually staking our claims in the worldwide AI market. I think that was a very deliberate thing as a political move, because they were realistic enough, at least that's what I would hope, to see that strategy, just throw money at the problem, is too little too late.
And I mean, if you
sorry.
I mean, if you look at GDPR, I mean, I'm not saying that GDPR, I think the basic idea was good. The execution, not so much.
That's a good thing.
But nonetheless, I mean, there was an international impact. So if you look at third-party cookies, if you look at browsers that are adjusted to this, I mean, there is an impact, and I say there is a certain importance to the market. Let's not think of it as too big, of course, but it's sometimes Europeans, I feel like there's a little bit less self-esteem than in other countries. And yeah, you're right, we were quite late. And it's hard for us to take part in that race, but I think there's something we have to offer, and that's not so bad.
Jump into that area where you believe, Andreas, where we have something to offer. Where are our differentiators, for instance, in sectors or in dedicated stuff where everybody else is jumping away if they hear the word data optimization, data cleaning, data quality management? Or do we have some other smartness in our approach? Not only the niche, going for a niche like what Jan said, dedicated usage like DeepL for translation, or LT as the language tool, which helps you in whatever browser, software, or whatever you are. They help you to do proper writing. Ideas, Andreas.
Well, okay. As I said at the beginning, I mean, we all said, I mean, okay, you focus on processes and not so much the bigger picture. And I wouldn't say that's a niche. I mean, that's about really performance, and it's ready to start. It's not like there will be something in the future. This is something that helps us now. And also, I mean, let's not forget that Black Forest Labs was founded in the United States, but it was founded by Germans, and it's a German headquarter. So, yeah, I mean, we have. I'm doing education, of course, but I mean, we are not so bad in that area. Yeah, we could be better. We might not be. There's not Ivy League everywhere, but the general standard isn't bad. And we there's a lot of things are happening currently. Yeah, and maybe it's not the top-notch solution, but it's a broader development. It's application of the technology, and this is something we are actually quite good at. And if you look at all those countries, these companies I mentioned before, which are in the automotive sector or in engineering, they have their own research and development department, and we can complain a lot about that's the wrong technology. Now everything is solar power. But look at automotive companies like Bosch, for example, at Mercedes. They have their stake in, for example, autonomous vehicles and a lot of application of AI in many operational processes, in fact. Yeah.
And hence they prefer to not run their stuff in a public cloud, but they create their Bosch GPT, or in the financial area, to speak so, Fiducia GPT, or their dedicated GPT models, as they are risk aware and they honor the framework of the EU AI Act. Jan, from your perspective as an entrepreneur and out of your daily business, where do you see not only your company as example, but also others which are in that area where they utilize AI, that we are somehow smarter?
Well, first of all, I wish we get away from that GPT hype, because it seems like, AI has become synonymous with generative AI and most of all with chatbots. And they're terrific tools, absolutely. I mean, everyone uses them for a reason, but they are just one strain of AI. I would say that generally speaking, you can break it down into 3 different main areas of AI outside robotics. I mean, there's robotics and sensorics, etc., as well, which is sort of a league of its own. But other than robotics, you have generative AI, you have, I would call it analytic AI or causal AI, and you have RPA. And they're not the same. And people tend to stare at generative AI like the rabbit at the snake, or on the other hand, use it for everything because it's like, oh my God, we got ChatGPT now. We use it to do our accounting, to do a media mix modeling, and to tell me who to marry, which is an absolutely horrendous idea. It's just not designed for that. It's like taking a hammer to try to, cut wood apart because you don't know that a saw would do much better for that.
The word
so
Jan, right?
Really need to
if you have a hammer, everything becomes a nail.
Yes, exactly.
Lovely
right now,
example.
it seems like all people think they've got is the generative AI hammer, and Germany's not good at generative AI. I mean, there are companies that are quite good at it, but in general, we're behind the curve. If you look at numbers of model sizes, model performance, etc. I would argue that German companies and also in general the level of proficiency and offers and excellence in Germany for analytic AI is very high. We're certainly part of that ecosystem of explainable analytic AI. It's what we founded our company on. And I mean, we keep winning big American, Asian, UK clients that are moving away from American platforms to our platform, because when it comes to analytic AI, determining causality, having explainable models, etc., we're better. And we're not the only ones. As I said, look at Celonis, for example, which is, I think, they're well past the 10 billion threshold, I think, by now. And they got huge offices in New York and everything. They're buying up American companies. If you look at the history, which is not super AI heavy, they kind of came too late to the party, but they're trying to catch up. But think of SAP, which is also very much an analytic and administrative tool, but it's excellent. It's a world leader. If you look at Helsing, for example, in the defense space, I say when you look at analytic applications, we're very far ahead. And if you look at RPA, we're at least quite good. I would say that other European nations have a bit more firepower there. So I think we really need to differentiate. But the thing is, generative AI is very user-friendly for the layperson. You can have a chatbot and it sort of passes the Turing test. You can have a nice chat with them and try to forget they're not human beings. This wouldn't fly with an analytic AI application or with an RPA bot network or something. So you need more skills and you need to kind of get nerdy about it to really appreciate it. So I think that's why it's chronically underrated, whereas generative AI is chronically overrated because everyone and their mother has an opinion about it, because everyone and their mother has touch points with it, which isn't true for, say, our Neutrum AI or for Celonis or for Helsing or something like that.
Yeah, generative AI, unfortunately, came to most people's attention as a toy. When OpenAI unleashed ChatGPT, it was literally for people to play with, see what you can do. And it was wonderful for their model because it gave them more data to iterate upon. But it also meant that, here's this new thing out in the world with no guardrails, and businesses are going to want to try to make a quick buck off of it. And that has left us where we are.
Isn't this also question, a matter of marketing. Now that I have at least one marketing professor here in the room. So what does it take to create a hype?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good question. If I would know the answer to this question, I probably would be very rich. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's low hurdles, of course, easy to use, and get some wowing effect. This is what we already said. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to demonstrate, and I'm actually wondering, because some people say some people claim that we are now in the trough disillusionment in the Gartner hype cycle concerning generative AI, and that it doesn't seem to be so great after all. But maybe I'm lost in my bubble, because I actually think it's still very great, and I use it every day. And maybe it's about how we can actually. Generative AI maybe now becomes just a part of the whole AI cycle, in fact, because if you integrate that in your value chain, it's just one part of it where you generate some content, and then you add all the other things, and we've been talking about agents a lot. I mean, if they will ever appear or not. Basically, I think they're already here, because it's not so complicated to build a certain bot that does certain things autonomously, which pretty much resembles the definition of an agent, more or less. Yeah. So we are now maybe on the starting of getting productive, and this is and I think actually it's if we add these things together, it's more than just a hype, and a hype is not forever. And the question is, when do we get productive with it? And maybe that's the most important question. Yeah. And I think. And I'm quite looking forward what will happen within the next month, because maybe we are there already to create some value by joining the dots, more or less. Yeah.
I would say to create a hype, you need a myth. And Europeans suck at myths. Americans are really great at myths, and I think Chinese are a bit more apt to come up with good myths too. When a European company comes with a great innovation, they're giving you a spec sheet, and they're explaining, like, it can do this, it can do that, and this will generate an ROI for you in like 10 months. And it's like 38-1, so you should definitely sign here. And then you got OpenAI, and they come around, it's like, look, ChatGPT actually understands you.
It's magic.
And we're only like an inch away, or maybe even just a pica away from AGI. And this might be true, or it might not be true. Most of the time, it's rather not true. But it's a myth. It's something that gets people excited. It's something that makes them feel. It's an aspirational usage model. You feel enlightened when you use it, because it's embedded in a myth. And we need to learn. If we want to carve out an AI space for Europe and European companies, we need to learn how to invent and tell European AI myths. And I don't mean, tell people lies. I mean, embedded into a great narrative that actually motivates people, and that gives focus, and that gives a direction.
Well, are areas
just
where
said agents are already there, and I tend to agree. What's your position towards that, Jan?
Well, I mean, it depends on how you define an agent, but that's why I broke it down into sort of, you got your generative applications for humans, you got your analytic applications for humans, and then you got your strand of AI that I summed up as RPA. And I mean, RPA is pretty much everything, or most everything you ascribe to an agent. It's all about autonomous programs that you give them a mission, and they just go about their business. And if you look around, it's happening all the time. It's happening in adaptive damping of vehicles. It's happening in smart homes. It's happening in real-time bidding algorithms, in DSPs, in marketing, in stock trading. The question is just more, when do you want to start calling it an agent? When is agency, enough agency to make an agent. But I think it's sort of a moot point because it comes down to labeling, and at some point people will be like, yeah, okay, that passes the threshold and this doesn't. But I think it's more of, and whatever you feel it is, because if you look at it in terms of systems theory, a simple thermostat can be described as a system. Nobody in their right minds would call a normal thermostat a system. But at some point, people are, yeah, that's a system, all right.
Yeah.
And then there are companies like, I can't remember the name of them. They make the artificial intelligence thermostats. Where would they fall?
Nest.
Yes, thank you.
We got one of those companies as a client on the Neutron platform. They're trying to market these things because Europeans, particularly Germans, are like, oh my God, it's AI, it's going to kill me.
So what are our responsibilities, regarding that sort of opinion, AI is going to kill me? What are our responsibilities as academics and analysts in terms of reporting what's there, but also being concerned about what the future holds?
I think it's talking about the real dangers, and to be honest, this general AI thing is not the major problem, because the problem is, as long as we are in charge, we are the biggest threat to humanity, in my understanding.
Well, yeah.
And I mean, I think this is the whole thing about talking about AGI is more like, it's framing, and it's luring us away from the real problems, in fact. And this is how humans actually apply AI in a wrongful way sometimes. And this is, by the way, to go back to the EU AI Act, why I think this is a good thing, because it actually addresses these things, in fact. So yeah, and this is what we should talk about. I mean, this is what we should talk about. How do we find systems that really make sense as academics? I went to a school here in Würzburg yesterday, and it's about education. What do algorithms actually do? How should I deal with them? How should I use them in school? But how should I defend myself against some fraud and all these things? This is the important part, and this actually has nothing to do with AI. That is more like general digitalization. Of course, there are algorithms. How should we deal with that? And I think as academics and analytics and journalists and so on, don't let us get lured away from will there be Skynet and Terminators and stuff like that? Yeah,
that's a good narrative, Skynet.
It is, absolutely.
I mean, they made a movie out of it.
Yeah.
The real concern is, will Skynet leave room for all of us to have jobs?
Do we need jobs anymore then? Yeah.
The thing is,
I would really like to leave the decision which systems make sense and which don't to the market within a framework of regulation. I mean, obviously, stuff that's designed for illegal use is not what we want. Illegal use of legitimate stuff is not what we want. We need laws, we need regulation, but I don't think we can sort of mastermind a huge national AI strategy and then implement it. I just don't think this is how innovation works. I think we need a very, very competitive market with brutal competition of different approaches on a mostly level playing field. And then we need education. So I kind of pass that ball back to you, Andreas, because we really need excellent education for people in such a competitive environment to pick the right application for them, to make up their mind, to understand what they can use for which purpose. Like, I got this hammer here, but I also got a saw and I got a screwdriver. So what do I need the screwdriver for? What do I need the hammer for? And also, what are realistic expectations? What are realistic KPIs to understand or to judge whether that's a good system, I'll invest more in it, or whether, gee, this thing sucks, I'll dump it. And I think that's where we're really lagging behind. I would personally prefer if we have regulation for illegal, illicit, dangerous stuff. And within everything that's not illegal, illicit, and dangerous, anything goes, and people are encouraged to be bold and to be very competitive, but then you need a high level of user competence to have clear expectations and to be like, yeah, bring it on, but it's got to pass my quality criteria, and if it doesn't, hiss off. So you have to have quality criteria, and right now most users, even in B2B contexts, don't. And I think that's a problem. That's a principal agent problem.
I wouldn't dare to disagree. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I think education should enable people to use it. And this is the beauty about Gen AI, is that it's easy to use, but you just have to use it. But still, you can make a lot of mistakes. For example, I'm a little bit afraid as though if you prompt the wrong way, you will get some result which is in the end just average. And the question is, how can we be excellent by using this? And we have to, for example, be able to write a good text in order to say that, or the output by Gen AI is good or bad. Is this a good text or a bad text? For that, we need to have the competence to really know how to write. And that's currently kind of a problem. And at the same time, we have to tell them, okay, what's prompting? How does an algorithm think? How does a large language model really work? What can I do to get better results? And this is about a lot of doing for yourself. It's just practicing, maybe that's currently a problem because schools are quite reluctant to enable that. Yeah.
But I think generative AI is frequently taught too pragmatically, actually. I mean, it's like, as you said, it's easy to use, and many teachers and trainers and coaches are focusing on helping people to do better prompts, which is fair enough, but it's very operational. And the problem, in my view, is frequently not that people don't have a good prompting strategy. It's a problem too, but I don't think it's the key problem. The key problem is that people don't know what they can use generative AI for. And then they don't use it to just improve a text or to sum up a text or something, but they use it, for example, you have journalists who use it for their research, and they don't even understand that it's not a truth machine and that it's really not a great way of doing research. Or students at universities try to use it for modeling. It's like, no, it's not a mathematical model, but they don't know. So it's like, maybe they're even excellent at prompting, but they can't tell the hammer from the chainsaw.
Absolutely.
The question I wanted to place is taking up Marshall's concerns, such as people say AI is killing me. Is it more that they are killing their jobs, or they are afraid that their jobs are killed? So learning and educating to make smart use of AI to make your life in business easier and to use it in a smart way, not in the way that you misunderstand it, but that you get the proper feedback, such as how to use it as a journalist, not to write your blog or your articles, but in a dedicated way, aside of Google, to prepare some stuff and then leverage it. What's your take on that?
Well, I have some of my friends who have been doing some, let's say, low-key journalism really lost their jobs, for sure. I mean, because that's, if you were doing something for cruises and some brochures, I mean, that Gen AI is good enough for that. But in many other cases, I rather see that there's a problem of enhanced competences, in fact. Not just journalists, but of course, pretty much, let's look at marketing, for example. You need to have more competences to use it the right way. And the question is, can I move up? Yeah. Can I become better at my job? And that's a problem. How do you do this? And will people still be able to do this? And that's currently kind of a problem, because in Germany, I mean, of course, maybe now we are facing a recession, but overall, I mean, there's a lack of of people to employ, and where do we get them? At universities, even we have problems for finding students currently. I mean, there are people missing everywhere. But we actually need even better educated people than we have at the moment. And this is probably one of the biggest challenges we have.
It's a paradox.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
But I think it's also a little bit of a catalyst as a question to ask yourself, because if you think that AI will make you unemployed, either you got a job that sucks or you suck at your job. That's pretty much it. Because, I mean, if you look at what AI is really good at, it's automating repetitive tasks. And it's automating filler tasks on an increasingly amazing level. And of course, every job contains a fair share of repetitive tasks and filler tasks. It's like you can't just write the outline. You got to write the whole damn article. You can't just, have a diagonal look at a balance sheet. You actually have to crunch the numbers to understand if it's legit or if there's some tampering there. And it's great at automating this. But if all you do as an auditor is crunching numbers by the numbers, using a guardrail and a spec sheet is like, okay, line by line, yeah, you're going to lose your job. But then it's like, what kind of job is that? If you're good at your job, you're looking behind the numbers and you're like, oh, this is kind of weird. I mean, the numbers add up, but I don't think this is fitting with their business model. It's weird. I don't think, that's a profitability you can get from a retail store. How do they come to those numbers? And that's not particularly what AI is good at. It's like this real world knowledge, associative lateral thinking, empathy, also like, purpose. What's the broader narrative behind it that will motivate people? Leadership. That's all stuff. I mean, maybe you should think about moving up, getting more into those parts of your job to create more value there, because that's where humans are amazing. And then use AI sort of as a secretary to get rid of the repetitive part and the filler tasks. And I think many people got to ask themselves this question, particularly white-collar people. Blue-collar people, they don't have that problem yet. You need a roof. You need a roofer. Robots won't do it. Not now and not in 5 years. Also, you need childcare experts in your kindergarten. Parents won't bring the kids to a robot or sit them in front of the TV with no adult in the room. But what the auditor, the copywriter, the strategy consultant, they got to ask themselves that question. And I think it can actually serve to make humans better in their jobs.
There is a little help from the outside as we are going close to the hour. And that question is on, could artificial intelligence develop new ways to grow crops, new challenges of global warming and trade deals with Asia? This could forecast what farmers need to grow from the environment. That could be one thing we can talk about, or that paradox Marshall was talking about.
Whatever you like, gentlemen.
I always I always love it when the audience actually engages. So
Yes.
I'll try to answer
again.
Yes, absolutely, yes, and not just that. That's not a theory. It's not could it do that. It's actually doing that as we speak.
Yep.
It's typical applications for our Neutron system are like, how will global warming impact my business? What do I need to account for that? What do I need to change? But also if we do interventions against, for example, a very dry season, the crops don't grow. We try all kinds of measures. Which one actually sticks? Which functions? Which helps us grow the crops? It's like you have a gazillion of factors. And of course, you could do that as a human with statistics, with modeling, but it would take you years and years and years, and it would take hundreds of humans and millions of dollars. AI does it in a couple of minutes or maybe a couple of hours with a tiny fraction of the money, and tell you, okay, this combination of measures works, that helps your crops grow better under this environment. Those are like typical applications for analytic AI. And also, if you look at the innovation management, it's like, what can we do? How can we develop new products? I wouldn't go so far in saying it suggests better products. Some AI folks would say it already does. I would be a bit more cautious there, but it can definitely bring together the different strands. It can show, we got people working on this, on that, and look, there's parallels there. And it looks like if you look at those parallels, if you add the different components, there's a bigger picture emerging. And this might be the bigger picture. Maybe there's some truth hidden there. This is where you should look. Like sort of, AI serving as a GPS navigation system for decision making. That's what it's doing right now when you look at analytic AI, and it will only get better from there. Will that help us fight climate change for good? I don't know, but at least we're definitely better off with AI in that race than we are without AI, I would argue.
Thomas needs to drop.
I need to drop off. I have an appointment that I really, really, really can't miss. Sorry. Bye. And great stuff. Also great fun, and great insight. Bye.
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 Bye, Tom. No.
Now that he's gone, except he's still here. There we go.
Now we can have all the fun.
Yeah, we are running short of time. So, Jan, you've had your final say. Andreas, is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
Well, Jan didn't leave much place to not agree. Yeah, I mean, there's there's no job where AI can't be of help. I mean, every one of us could benefit from AI and its work, and there's no process and no creating, no value creation where you cannot use AI, more or less. I mean, there's nothing else to say concerning that. I mean, if we look at, we actually were talking about Germany at the beginning, or the European Union. I think maybe that's one thing where we can educate ourselves a little bit more, that we can adapt even more to AI. You can be aware of the risks that are out there, but I think you can pretty much look at everything that you do and where AI can contribute to help you. And maybe that's what we need, to be a little bit more open-minded towards that. And we still can think about, okay, where are the dangers of AI? But when you think about, okay, where are the solutions with AI, that probably will be of a lot of help. Yeah.
All right. Well said. And I think we're going to leave it there. Ladies and gentlemen, that is CRM Convos for today and for 2024. We'll be taking a break for the next couple of weeks, during which time you should feel free to catch up on this or any of our previous episodes on youtube.com at CRM Convos.
And subscribe.
Yeah. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. Andreas and Jan, thank you very, very much for joining us today. I appreciate your perspectives. You have given our audience a lot to think about, and we barely scratched the list of things that we had to go over. So I think we're going to have you guys back sometime next year.
Well, I'd love to. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
We will return on January 7th of 2025, and we'll be diving into trends and ideas from 2025 through 2030 with our guest Heiko Henkes from ISG. Hopefully you'll be able to join us for that. In the meantime, Best wishes of the holiday season, and stay safe.
Yo,
Goodbye.
hope to see you soon, next year latest.
Yeah.